Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS current affair analysis for 16th March 2021, and in this video we'll be talking about the Quad Summit as well as POXO. This article is titled A Giant Leap Forward for the Quad. Now what is Quad? Basically, Quad is a meeting of four countries: US, India, Japan and Australia. What is the common purpose? Unofficially, it is to counter China's aggression in the region. But even though they had this common agenda of coming together to ensure a rules based world order, the agreement regarding the definition of Indo Pacific has always been a cause of concern. At the same time, the second problem is with respect to the sovereignty issues. We know that in the times before Joe Biden, when Donald Trump was the president of the United States, there was a constant tussle between US and China. Because of this friction between the two countries, the region has been subjected to a lot of geopolitical tensions. The Chinese aggression in the region has led to a huge mistrust amongst nations, and this has resulted in the revival of a very old idea, because 2007 was the time when this idea was initially proposed by Japanese Prime Minister back then. So this took the form of Quad in its present form because of the agenda to ensure that China is contained. But officially, these countries cannot say that this is an anti-Chinese alliance, and nor is its objective to corner China. The only objective is to ensure a rules-based world order. But the problem was China was complaining that they're forming a military alliance to aggressively attack China. This has been the rhetoric developed by China across the world. In order to address all these issues, and also keeping in mind the crisis of COVID and the lessons that we learned over the period of last 1 year, looking at the aggression of China, whether it is in the Hong Kong or whether we're talking about the Galwan Valley at the line of actual control in India, or the usual checkbook diplomacy strategies that China follows. So the revival of this idea was criticized that apart from a anti-China common feeling or a common need to contain China, there is hardly anything common between all these countries. Keeping all those views aside, the meeting that happened yesterday is a giant leap forward for the future of Quad. In this article, the author has outlined 5 different themes which make this a very important alliance to ensure that we are not only containing China without even mentioning Chinese ambitions in the policy document. At the same time, we are addressing all the issues of individual countries. For example, let us understand the definition of Indo-Pacific. Time and again, there was a lack of clarity on what Indo-Pacific actually means. On one hand, there was a group of policymakers who believed that Indo-Pacific is nothing but a geographical entity. Others said that it is a political entity. So this document has clearly laid down that it is not just a geographical entity or not just exclusively a political entity. It is a strategic area which is significant for security of the world. When this was raised, the usual concern for India was that US would be dragging India unnecessarily into its own ambitions, and China would be using that against India, and we would be sandwiched in unnecessary battles. So we were very keen on maintaining our sovereignty and at the same time ensuring the safety of our country. India is considered to be a regional leader in the South Asian region and the Indian Ocean region, and for this purpose, India wanted to maintain that strategic autonomy and the status of net security provider in the region. So it always said that we want to have a vision of open, inclusive, and unconstrained democratic value based organization. So that objective has been achieved in this meeting yesterday. That is the first objective. The second one is there was always a concern about what we should do to contain China. So, without mentioning Chinese name at all, and they've specifically mentioned that the objective here is to address the security challenges in the South China Sea and East China Sea. Basically, they're talking about how Chinese aggression by violating the international law on seas and occupying certain islands which belong to other countries as well, using the nine dash line and the string of pearls theory to extend their territories is against the idea of sovereignty of this entire region. So, in order to ensure that Southeast Asia is also integrated into this idea of Quad, they have specifically mentioned this. The choice of words is very important for this very reason. Third one, we have to understand that whenever we are making a policy, without actually giving a reason for different stakeholders to come on board, the policy will remain just that, a policy. It will not convert into action. So Southeast Asian countries, especially ASEAN, is a significant stakeholder in this entire region. It is important to have ASEAN in this region. Similarly, it is important to have South Korea, which is a major trade partner and also a significant economic player in this region, to get them on board. So it specifically mentioned about South Korea being the major partner. It talked about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula as an agenda of this group meeting as well. So therefore it succeeded in that aspect as well. Apart from this, the crucial aspect of cooperation on issues that really matter at the present moment, that is vaccines, the future technologies, because we know that China has been investing almost 600 billion US dollars on 5G technology. So it requires coming together of various countries to extend the partnerships in these technologies like artificial intelligence, 5G, etc. And thirdly, it is also creating a group on climate change, which is the next big challenge to address in the coming future. So in this way, it is not just being a military alliance to contain China, it is also talking about important partnerships that can address the issues of sustainable development. Considering all these aspects, this is a giant leap forward from the accusation that it is just an anti-Chinese alliance that does not serve any other purpose. That is the gist of this article. This article titled "The Limits of POCSO" is about how the law, which was intended to protect the rights of children, has certain limitations. So this law, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, was recently amended as well. But before getting into those details, let us understand the basic provisions of this act. So this act was enacted to protect the children from offences of sexual assault, sexual harassment and pornography, with due regard for safeguarding the interest and well-being of children. In this respect, there is another aspect of aggravated sexual assault in the case of minors, especially the adolescents. So according to this concept, if a person who is acting as a guardian, or if the person is someone who is known to the minor, if there is any involvement of any sexual advances from that person towards this minor, then it can be treated as aggravated sexual assault, because it is happening under the influence of a known person. But what if there is a consenting relation between the person involved and the minor? That was the question raised in a recent case in the Madras High Court, and Madras High Court said that if the person is consenting, it is a natural tendency of the adolescent's age, and therefore it cannot be treated under the POXO Act. However, from a lot of time, child activists have been arguing that this provision is a problematic one because these kind of decisions will be taken by minors just out of their biological urge rather than any thoughtful action. So this will eventually affect them as they age, and since they are formative years, which actually influence the thought process of a person, this kind of activities early in the age will be a problematic issue. The problem is under POXO 2012, the consent of a person under the age of 18 is irrelevant regarding the nature and circumstances of. If we look at the original act of POXO, it was decided that the definition of the child is less than 18 years. So technically, if any relation involves a child less than 18 years, it can be categorized as rape under POXO. However, this act has remained silent about consent. So this element of consensus, or if there is any consent involved in the case of the sexual interaction that has minors involved in it, how can we actually categorize it as a POXO case is the question that is laid down in front of the court. So the problem is that on one hand, there is every possibility of this kind of sexual assaults on minors, so there is a need to give justice to those kind of minors. But also there will be another scenario where there is consent involved. So the POXO Act has not taken this into consideration and followed an absolutist approach. That is to say, if the court admits a case, then it will become by default a POXO case. That is to say, it will be treated as rape, and it is the onus of the accused to prove his innocence. It will have repercussions on the life of that person, especially when there is consent involved. There is also a possibility of misusing the act. But if the minor herself or himself admits in the court that there is consent involved, how do we go about this is the jurisprudence or the logic behind the law that is being questioned right now. So we have to remember that law is a minimum expectation and ethics is on a highest pedestal. For example, if law is here, the courts can say that this is the minimum expectation where the entire society agrees upon. Now, every member of our society agrees upon the fact that any unsolicited sexual advances towards minors is unacceptable. Therefore, we have made the POXO Act. Now, this is the minimum standard. But if you're talking about moral policing and ethics, this is a completely a matter that is subject to public opinion debate, and there is no consensus on what is ethical to a society. Therefore, it cannot become a law at this point of time, but it can become a law, or at least it can become a part of the existing POXO Act somewhere down the line in the future, but not right now. So therefore, courts were given the objective to decide what is the situation here by hearing both the cases on a case-to-case basis. Therefore, this judgment is right. So the point that we have to take from this entire article is using this particular case study as the differentiation between law and ethics, and how we can apply this logic elsewhere as well. That is the takeaway from this article. Thank you.